Welcome to the By Identity podcast. This week's topic is By Some Degree, and we'll be discussing how our college experience plays into our identity. Sit back and enjoy the show. I'm Terea Sherman.
And I am Candy.
All righty, let's get into it. Okay, so Candy, why did you decide to attend college?
Because I wanted to get out of my mama's house.
I feel like that's the reason why a lot of people want to go to college.
Yeah, that was the quickest way that I knew of, aside from joining the military, where I could get out my mama's house and be on my own. So therefore, I went to college. I unfortunately did not go to the college I wanted to go to, but, it all worked out in the end. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the reason. I was just ready to get out of my small town. I was ready to start my life. I definitely was really focused on picking a good school where I could go and study pre-medicine. I really wasn't set in any set school. I don't know why, but I used to be really into Ivy League schools, and then I was like, ew, they're expensive. So I just applied to USC, just some in-state colleges. I did get accepted to an out-of-state college, but I stuck with my alma mater, which is the University of South Carolina, because they gave me a free ride there. And I was like,
hey,
cool. So,
what out-of-state college was you accepted to?
I got accepted to the University of Miami.
Okay.
And I don't know, sometimes I think about, like, what if I would have bit the bullet and just went there? Would I have had more opportunity? Probably so, but I still would have been six figures in debt, and like that just wouldn't have been worth it to me, especially like being all the way down there. We already know how the Florida weather is crazy, and
I mean, South Carolina weather isn't any better.
I mean, but yeah, though, at least we have some room to evacuate when there's a hurricane. I feel like in Florida, you just drown.
I mean, that's what people almost did with that 1,000-year flood.
1,000-year flood. Yeah, I swear, like, ooh, Lord, that was so bad, especially in Charleston. That's another reason why I didn't go to Charleston, because they tend to flood there a lot. But yeah, I'm happy that I chose USC. It was far from home, but not too far. My parents were able to visit me whenever, and yeah, I mean, I like the campus and everything. I really don't have too many complaints about it. Just probably certain departments, but we can talk about that later on the podcast. This kind of ties into our next question, which is, why did you choose your field of study?
So originally my field of study was biology, and I chose that because I wanted to do physical therapy and massage therapy. But South Carolina State did not have that as a major, so the closest thing they had was biology. So that's what I did until my junior year of college, when I switched my major to English. Looking at back now, I probably should have did that to begin with, because I always felt that whatever job I was going to have, it was going to be as a writer. But, you live and you learn.
Yeah.
But the second time I did study advertising and studio art. I chose advertising because I felt like that was the main thing you need to really build yourself as a company, as a brand, is being able to advertise yourself.
True.
And I chose studio art because I like art. And it was a good contrast between advertising and kind of like the technical or practical side of it versus an art student where it's just creative. Yeah. And also because I could, so I just went ahead and double majored. So why not?
Yeah, I definitely wish I would have double majored, honestly.
Well, it's not for the faint of heart, because I was on a plan where I wanted to be done in 3 years, which I did get done in 3 years, but I went back to back. So I did 18 credit hours, spring, summer, fall for 2.5 years. Because like the first semester I started was the spring, and then I went to summer school. And I only think I did maybe 9 credits those 2 semesters. And then after that, it was 18 hours straight until I graduated.
Ooh, Lordy. Yep, that's a lot, baby. Ooh.
Yeah, needless to say, I was worn out. But I wanted to get done as soon as possible, because if I kind of slack, well, also I had the GI Bill, so I only had like 3 years anyway to be able to get my degree. So I just took advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. If they was paying for it, I definitely would have double majored, triple majored, shit. Like, let them pay for all of it. When I went to school, I did start off as a bio major. Little special tip to all our people who are listening, who are, researching colleges. It's not really so much that you need to research the college. You should also research the department that you plan on majoring in, because that can determine a lot of your career opportunities, success, research opportunities. If your program just isn't that good in terms of not having really good teachers, you will suffer. I repeat, you will suffer. So I majored in biology, and needless to say, it was pretty rough. I ended up switching to public health, which is that's a really good school, that's a really good college at the University of South Carolina. They have a really good program and honor society. And I ended up switching to that at the end. Technically, I switched to that junior year because my last semester as a bio major was spring semester of my sophomore year. And I definitely did not have any regrets. The only regrets that I had was that I would have done it sooner. The reason why I chose biology was because I was going the pre-med route and I wanted to do the traditional thing and like do biology so that it would make it easier for me to do the MCAT because I would be more prepared. However, like, as some of you may know, you don't necessarily need to major in biology to prepare yourself for the MCAT. You can major in anything you want as long as you take the major courses that the MCAT is going to test you on. So I just went ahead and like switched to public health because the biology major had you taken all this extra stuff that was not going to be on the MCAT, like plants and like all, tissue, like stuff you really don't need. So I switched, and at first I was going to do a BS in public health so that way I could still do anatomy and physiology. But then like I just honestly changed my mind altogether. I didn't want to be a doctor anymore. I just wanted to do the healthcare administration side. So I switched to pretty much 2 weeks after I declared myself a BS in public health, I switched to a BA. And so, yeah, now my career pursuit is healthcare administration.
That was actually another thing I didn't like about being a biology major at State was they automatically had you minor in chemistry. So I was good with anatomy, physiology, that part of it, even organic chemistry. I love calculus. I could do the math. But they started getting into physics and like microbiology, all the other stuff. And I was just like, I don't want to do this.
No.
This is boring to me. And I just stopped going to class. And obviously my grades were affected. But, it's okay. I pulled it back up in the end because I started to do something that I really love doing, which was writing, which was why I progressed better as an English major. And my mom was like, you should just double major. And I'm like, nah, I'd rather stay the extra 2 years to finish my degree, which it should have been 1, but I didn't have a really good advisor, which we can get into later. So I ended up staying the extra 2 years to finish my degree in English, doing something that I really love doing versus being miserable as a biology major and just getting a degree just to say I got it. Earlier you said that you chose USC because you had a full ride, but you also said you had like a 6-figure debt. So how was your college experience funded?
Sorry, I probably should have been a little bit more clear. If I would have gotten accepted to the University of Miami, I would have had 6-figure debt.
Gotcha.
But I got accepted into USC. I did not have to pay for anything. My freshman year was definitely the most expensive just because you're living on campus. I guess we'll talk more about that later when we talk about finances. But yeah, I actually had to get a few outside scholarships to cover my freshman year. But other than that, I did not have to take out any loans.
Did you have like grants or scholarships based on your grades or scores or what?
So for my freshman year, I'll talk about the 3 outside scholarships I got. I got one from McDonald's. I got one from the Deltas. I got one from, I can't remember. There was another third. Oh yeah, my mom, she worked at a hospital, and I got a scholarship from there. The rest, it was the Pell Grant. There was an SC need-based grant. That one is based on your family income. There was some random scholarship I got called like the Abney Scholars. I'm not sure how they pick people to be in that one. And I think the rest of my money was But yeah, it was the federal Pell Grant. And then also I'm in a program for first generation college students, or excuse me, I was in a program, and it's tailored towards first generation college students. It's called the Opportunity Scholars Program. And yeah, whatever you're like lacking in aid, they'll like give you more money so that you don't have to take out loans. And I'm pretty sure per semester, I want to say they gave me like $2,500 or something like that. And yeah, it was a blessing to be an OSP. I didn't even know that program was there. In fact, I really didn't even research programs for first generation college students, or that honestly probably would have made my searches a little bit more fruitful, like just talking about when I was in high school, because I was more so just focusing on like, of course, I wanted to get my in-state schools, but like which schools had the best program for biology. I didn't even consider looking at programs for first generation college students because I didn't know that was a thing. If that makes sense. Like I knew they definitely gave you money based on your income level, but I didn't know they had special programs for first generation college students. So yeah, definitely I would tell any high school student to definitely do research into those. Yeah.
Did you mention that you got a scholarship from the Deltas? Were you a part of any organizations or social groups while you were in school?
Of course, yes. I was I was inducted into the Alpha Phi Omega fraternity, where I also met my co-host. Yeah, that's pretty ironic or coincidental. I got a scholarship from the Deltas, and I ended up joining a community service fraternity. But I mean, honestly, I like our group. That was probably one of the best decisions I made at USC.
Ditto. And I think it worked out too because it was not that many of us that pledged at the time versus like the line that came after us. So I think it was like really cool that we got to really have a really close-knit experience while we were online. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And we're all still, good friends to this day. We keep in contact with each other. Yeah, I definitely couldn't ask for a better line of brothers.
We're brothers. Happy and
we're singing and we're colored. Mm-mm-mm.
I actually wanted to put that on a shirt for the line that came after us, but that would have been mildly inappropriate.
I mean, it would have fit. Shoot. I mean, honestly, no, because
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess moving into that actually ties into the school versus social life balance.
I had none. I did not have a social life whatsoever. While I was going to school, like I said, I went full-time every semester. I was also working part-time. I was also still a reservist at the time. And I was a caregiver at the time. So I had no social life. I think the most social I was when we were online out of the 3 years I was at USC. And that didn't happen until the semester before we graduated. No, the year before we graduated was when we crossed. So that was like the most social life I had.
Man, I know that was a lot on you.
When I said like, by the time I graduated, like when I said I was through, like mentally, emotionally, I was just done.
But that's why they say it's important to have that balance, because you will get burnt out. I mean, obviously your responsibilities come first, especially when, you got to work. You mentioned you're a caretaker. Those are definitely like responsibilities that you definitely, you had to take on. But I didn't
have to take it on because I actually took a year off of working because of the GI Bill. They give us a monthly stipend. So I technically didn't have to work. But I have that mindset of if I'm not working, then it's kind of like, well, I don't know what to do with my hands type of thing. And I chose to be a caregiver because of the situation that my grandma was in at the time. But I didn't know how to balance it all because I just kind of felt like, with like the limitations that she had, like I had to be there for her like 24/7. If I wasn't at school or if I wasn't at work, like I had to be home or had to be able to help her any way I could, which helped me learn boundaries or at least try to. But, sometimes when it comes to parents and grandparents, it's kind of hard to enforce them. So, yeah, but they just say by the time I graduated, I was just burnt out. So, Yeah. And also, close to the end of us being at USC, I didn't have ACE anymore either. So that was also pretty stressful and pretty depressing as well. So it was a lot.
Yeah, definitely. As far as for me, the first couple of years while I was a biology major, not even saying that it was that bad, but I feel like I struggled to have a social life just because I don't know, maybe it's just the millennial Gen Z mindset, but it's like people want to party, but people don't want to communicate. Like, it's really odd when you go to social functions and people are like dancing in a circle with their friends. Like, I really can't get over that. And I really didn't like party or hang out that much freshman year. Basically, if I wasn't in my dorm, I was in class or I was at the gym. Sophomore year, I was definitely a lot more social. As far as balancing that when it came to school, though, what really helped me with school was that I made sure to like have a schedule where like I had breaks. It would either be like, you know, if I had 3 classes in a day, I would have like maybe one at 8:30, one at 9:45, and maybe the second one wouldn't be until 2 o'clock or something like that. I think what was really stressful was definitely my first year as a freshman, because I mean, you're a freshman, you don't know what's going on. And I remember like my Wednesdays were terrible because I had lab. Like, I'm talking about, I was in class. Like, I remember like waking up at 8 a.m. to get to class, and then I wouldn't get home until like 9 p.m. And I remember that there were sometimes like I couldn't even go home to rest. Like, I would have to like bring my lunch and eat it in class. Didn't even have time to stop to eat. That was stressful. But after like I learned my lesson, you know, my first semester of college, and I made sure to like have a schedule where I got break, and also that where I would, you know, definitely pencil in some time to study. That was definitely a lot more doable because I didn't have that much of a social life until sophomore year. And then I don't know, I think for the most part in college, I did have a pretty good social life balance. The only time I think it was ever really thrown off was over the summer, but that really ain't got nothing to do with college. That was just me being a workaholic. Yeah.
Did you go to summer school or did you just go during the spring and the fall?
I went during the spring and the fall, but however, like, especially when I moved off campus, I was still responsible for rent over the summer. Mm-hmm. So that definitely had to get paid. So I would have to work summer jobs sometimes. Well, I shouldn't even say sometimes. It's like literally throughout my whole college career, I definitely was working over the summer. And for some reason, that was like definitely more stressful than like working during actual school.
If you live on campus, don't you have to leave during the summer, or are you allowed to stay on campus if you're going to summer school?
Oh no, baby, they kick you the hell out. Like, yeah, you got to get out of there. I think the only people who can stay are people who are taking like special, like they have little seminars and workshops and stuff like that over the summer, or if you're working there over the summer during orientation. But as far as just like living there and you're not taking any classes or anything, yeah, no, I don't even think they provide housing for summer school, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting. So which did you like better, living on campus or living off campus?
Well, I do think, well, actually, no, I'll put it like this. I feel like if your campus gives you the option to live off campus, I like living off campus just more so because it's cheaper. It is a lot cheaper. And
because I mean, I get a meal plan.
Say again?
So because you don't have to get a meal plan.
Yeah, you don't have to get a meal plan. And also, I mean, I really shouldn't endorse this, but I mean, I'm just going to keep it real. So if you want to turn up and you want to party, you got to do that in an apartment, because I don't know why. I was under the impression, maybe it's because I watched a lot of like, you know, TV growing up. I thought people partied inside their dorms. And they really don't do that, at least not at USC. Like, if you wanted to party, you would have to go to an apartment. So you just have like a lot more freedom in an apartment. And also you don't have to put up with a resident mentor or a resident advisor. Mm-hmm. So it's just like a lot more freedom. However, I will say, if you do choose to live like in a student apartment, they do have a cop. So if it is too loud, the cops will come a knocking. On campus housing, I would only really recommend that to freshmen, just so it's more safe. it is a good proximity to your classes. It really is just like a lot more secure, but the only offset is that cost.
So I've lived on campus, I've lived off campus, obviously. Even did the student housing thing, which me personally, I hated. Maybe because they chose my roommates for me and we did not get along. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, like I agree with you. I think like as freshmen, living on campus is probably better because of the safety issues, and also you don't really know your way around the city, probably. Yeah. As opposed to somebody who may have lived like, well, it's like say USC, like you went there as a freshman, but I've lived there my whole entire life. So for me, I wouldn't live on campus even as a freshman because why?
Well, yeah.
I mean, you know, you still have like the social aspect of it where you're around your peers and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm like, well, you know, it would be cheaper for me to just stay home than to live on campus. You know, having an apartment definitely gives you that freedom, like you said, to just do whatever you kind of want to do within the limitations of your lease. Going to USC, like I would have felt weird trying to live on campus because I went way after my, well, not way after my 20s, but I went to USC later instead of going like right after high school. So for me, being around a whole bunch of like 18-year-olds and 20-something-year-olds would have just been weird. And I wouldn't have wanted to do that. So for me personally, living off campus was the only option. Even if I didn't have, when I did go to college right after high school, I lived on campus until I think my junior year. Then I lived off campus in one of those houses where, you know, they like have a house, but they renovated to like have like its own like separate room. So I lived there for like a year. And then I moved back home because I only had classes 2 days a week. So I would just drive to school and then drive back home. For what I remember, living in the dorms was kind of fun when you're around like your friends and stuff like that, and y'all really got no sense, so y'all just doing whatever. But
yeah, I agree. Well, for me, it was a little bit different because the people that I was friends with at the time, they lived in a more, well, at our university, we call it suite style. So basically it's like you have a roommate, you share one space, you have a bathroom, and there's 2 other people on the other side. So it's 4 people to 1 bathroom. I would more so go to their dormitory and I would hang out with them because they were my friends. I lived in an apartment style dorm. So that was like definitely a little bit more secluded. I didn't really talk to my hallmates like that. I barely talked to my roommate, mainly because, I mean, we all had our own room. They were all friendly. Yeah, I really didn't socialize with them like that. I mean, we're still Facebook friends. So I will say though,
that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's really funny how you mentioned not wanting to be around a bunch of little kids because my roommate for the second semester of my freshman year, she was like 27. She was a foreign exchange student, or she might have been 29. And she always kept talking about, oh my goodness, I am so old. I'm like, chill, you literally look 18. Like, yeah, I would recommend for anybody who like actually wants like the legit college experience that maybe you should check out the traditional style dorms. I personally couldn't do it, but for the people that I know that lived in a traditional style dorm, which if you don't know, that's basically where you just have either a single room or you have a roommate and you share like a community bathroom. I've heard people say that they literally made the best connections there and like they were friends with everybody on their hall. So
when my freshman year, I think my freshman and sophomore year, when I was living on campus, I stayed in the honors dorm. So we had a suite style setup where it was 2 rooms, 2 people to a room, and we just had like we shared a bathroom. We shared like a little kitchenette area, had like a living room area. So
you have the nice one.
Yeah, girl, you didn't know. So yeah, like we stayed there during the summer when I went to summer school. I was in a different dorm. It's kind of like how you say, I guess, it's the quote unquote traditional dorm. Well, actually, it was kind of the same as the suite, except for we didn't have like the kitchenette and the living room part. So it was kind of still set up as like a suite to where it was like you had your own little space where you had 2 rooms, 2 people to a room, and you shared a bathroom.
Yeah.
Which was still, I guess not what you would call traditional.
I know that at USC, you can pick where you want to go. It isn't guaranteed. But I mean, I got my first choice. But I think the reason why they put me in with Green Quad was because, which is the community for like people who are into plants and stuff. The apartment style dorms, they're really expensive. Mm-hmm. So people really weren't trying to stay there anyway. So I'm pretty sure that's why I got in. I think most people, they more so want suite style. So there definitely was more competition there. But I mean, even still though, two of the girls who I was friends with freshman year, like they got into their first choice, no problem.
Well, let's take a quick break because I need some water. It's hot in here.
Okay.
So we are back, and I guess we'll just get into explaining how our experiences influenced or affected our identity. First question. How do you feel college contributed to your overall growth?
Well, it contributed to my overall growth because I basically learned how to think for myself, not think for other people, but think about what's best for me. And that applies to like my academic experiences, that applies to my friendships. Like I just learned to focus on me and do what's best for me. Going to college definitely like made me prioritize my wants and my needs. Going to college definitely made me a lot more sociable, especially as it pertains to making network connections. Also joining the fraternity, joining APO helped a lot. And even going to therapy in college, because that was free. I think at USC you got 9 free sessions per semester. I did utilize that tool, and that helped me a lot too. So honestly, I'll say that college, I think it helped me become a better version of myself. I think anybody, because I know going to therapy is expensive. So if you do have the opportunity to go to college, I definitely would check into making sure that your college does provide counseling and if it's free. Speaking of therapy, how many personal connections did you make?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, well, we know you made at least 6.
Well, okay, yeah. So there's you guys. There's my little. So that's 7. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's immeasurable because it's not about the quantity; it's about the quality. So,
who snaps?
So I'm not going to sit here and try to count how many connections I've made, but I do know that the connections that I have made are with people that I cherish and I value. And that's that.
Yeah, definitely. Quality connections do count over quantity. I think definitely my quality connections would definitely be my brothers. Also have a very good friend of mine that, is always recruiting me to go to church. And, she wants me basically to just, submit to our Lord Christ and Savior. And, I'm trying every day. She always talks about it every time I see her. And I definitely I met a lot of people who, honestly, I would invite them to my wedding. And that's what they say about college, that, the people that you meet there are going to be the people who you make lifelong connections with, and that who you'll probably want to interact with later on in life, and who you're going to want to be at your greatest achievements and whatnot. And I definitely did meet some great people.
I can see that, because I was just thinking about USC, but even if I go way back in my memory to state, my number one best friend I met in college. So yeah, and me, we're still obviously friends today. And to the point where I would have been her maid of honor if COVID-19 wasn't an issue right now. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can definitely agree with that as well, of just the connections that you can make with people in college.
I feel like as you get older, especially when you start getting into the workforce, it definitely was important for me to make connections, because in high school, they were not it. In fact, I switched high schools halfway through, but it's a different story. So yeah, definitely
I think also with college though, it gives you the opportunity to really learn yourself. Whereas high school don't really do that because you're probably with the same people you've been with for the first 18 years, well, 12-ish years of your life from like kindergarten to high school, whatever. But you're still under, the guidance and supervision of your parents or guardians, however you want to call them. Whereas college, it's like you're really leaving the nest, so to speak. And I think it gives you an opportunity to really learn yourself and learn what you want as a person and how to really like deal with people, how to make those connections, how to navigate in, college life, because it's crazy trying to learn how to balance, like you said, having a social life and trying to do schoolwork. And if you work, trying to balance that as well. And just, it's a balancing act. But I think, it's a great experience that if you hopefully don't know yourself or just don't know, who you kind of are as a person, that it affords you that opportunity to make those mistakes and to learn and to hopefully by the time you graduate, be a lot better than what you were when you first went in. Which, I mean, granted, you will be, because I don't think you can just go through college and not have some kind of experience that will either change your life or affect it in a way that you never saw happening otherwise.
And I mean, that's the overall goal of college, if you ask me. I mean, other than, of course, getting your degree, but is to experience that overall growth. Which takes me into my next question. How did college affect you mentally, emotionally, and physically?
Let's see. Well, physically, you have the freshman 15.
Lord.
I mean, physically, it's going to be what it is, especially if you live on campus, food options may not be the best. And if you live off campus, your food choices may not be the best. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think like a lot of it just has to deal with how you manage stress. And that determines just how much it really affects you mentally, physically, and emotionally. I mean, as far as me, like the first time I went to college, I don't really think it was that bad on either part. Even in dealing with like relationships and friendships lost and all that other stuff. I think while I was at USC, it affected me in a way because, like I said, I just had a lot going on and I didn't take the time for myself. And I think that really impacted just how stressed out I really felt by the time I graduated. Mm-hmm. And also, like, because I didn't really know anybody at USC, I didn't have like an outlet that I felt like I could really, hang out with people, talk to people until, like we were online and then after we crossed, of course. And then like I knew you guys and I knew Adia. But other than that, all I had was work, school, home. And just people I knew at my unit, but we weren't like, I was cool with one person. But, at the same time, she has a whole family and stuff like that. And so you have like those different types of dynamics where you can't really just be like, hey, can I just come over? Can I talk? Stuff like that. So a lot of the years I was just kind of just in my own headspace and really got to a breaking point after I had to get rid of Ace. And at that point, I went through a really bad depression and knew that I needed to talk to somebody about it. So I sought therapy and stuff like that. But yeah, so I think that was the worst for me as far as like mentally and emotionally went. And after I found like this awesome therapist, oh my God, I wish I could still see her. Oh, well, things got a lot better. And also having my brothers and being able to just interact with you guys and like be around with y'all, that also helped as well.
I'm glad we were there for you, Candy.
I mean, I didn't say all of that. I just said just having y'all around.
We're one big happy family. Let's see. As far as for myself, as far as mentally, shoot, college ain't nothing but one big mental roller coaster, especially trying to figure out the workload can be a lot. It's definitely a lot different from high school, actually having to put in the time to study, trying to find that life versus school balance. That can definitely be a struggle, especially like in my case, when you end up switching majors. That can honestly change around your whole career path, which once again, that's why, they do have career counseling. They had it at our college and they should have it at all colleges, if I'm not mistaken. Hello.
I think so.
shoot, they should. Like, that's the whole point of going to college, so that you can get a job. But yeah, I definitely, like, I went through career counseling, and I did go through, I talked to my advisor. So that helped me get through that aspect of just my journey through college. Emotionally, yeah, college was definitely a big emotional roller coaster. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer my freshman year. So, like, that was a lot. Luckily, she did make it through. I ended up going to radiation treatment with her over that summer. And it's not easy when you're going to college and you have a very close family member to you that's sick and you can't be there for them.
No.
So that was a lot on me freshman year. And then also there definitely were some changes that I went through. Just, I'll say is, I had to take out the trash, so to speak, out with the old and with the new. I had to change around, my social group, my friend group for the better. And, it can be hard. Sometimes breaking up a friendship, it can, sometimes it can hurt like breaking up a relationship. But I mean, you got to do it, especially if it's for your own personal growth. And, I don't regret, my decision on that aspect. As far as, I'll also talk about homesickness too. I definitely was homesick my first couple of months of college, but, that was my first time away from home, and I got over that, especially when I started like hanging out with my friends more. I feel like definitely like when you're around a bunch of people your age, that helps you out a lot too, because that becomes your family, that becomes your home away from home. So definitely my being with my friends definitely helped me a lot, with an addition of going to therapy. And as far as physically, it's funny you mentioned that freshman 15, because I swear one of the worst feelings is to think you eating healthy, but you not. Because I could have sworn that I was eating healthy, going to the salad bar in college and putting all the honey mustard and putting the bacon on top of it. I thought I was doing something, and I really just couldn't figure out why I was gaining weight.
It was the bacon and the honey mustard.
Like, shoot. And probably to me, I really wish I would have utilized like the gym more. Strom is an amazing gym at USC, even though I barely went there. And shoot, I was paid, it's paid for in your tuition. So yeah, I wish I would have utilized that more, and even like the gym and like my off-campus apartment. But I mean, you live, you learn. Fun fact. I actually learned from a friend of mine that they did offer a nutrition counseling service at the university. So I actually did go to a nutritionist for the first time. And that actually helped me like kickstart my weight loss journey.
That I didn't know, because so what I did while I was taking those 18 credit hours, I really only took maybe 15 of actual classes, and then I took like 3 of them as gym classes. So I took like swimming and weightlifting and all those like yoga and all those classes. And so one of those classes, we actually met with a nutritionist. And so that's how I knew about that.
And I wish I would have done that too, especially at USC Green Quad. It's located like right next to Blatt, where they have all the PE classes. So I could have been taking women's self-defense and all that. Like,
yeah, that too.
Like
I try to tell people like that's, to me, like that's the way to get like the break in your. But so I did it that way because I didn't want to bombard myself with actual classes. So to make up for those extra hours, I just took gym classes.
Yeah, I wish I would have done that.
I mean, they're 1 hour, but they're easy A's. So, and I think to also add to your question about how college affected you mentally, emotionally, and stuff like that, I think there's also, or for me, there's also a pressure in a sense to finish, but to also do it as fast as I could, like as efficiently as I could in a sense. I don't really know why I put that pressure on myself, because like I said, I went in with the mindset that like, oh, I'm going to be done in 3 years, like come hell or high water. I actually could have been done sooner. But anyway, I was like, I'm going to be done in 3 years. And even now in pursuing my master's, I feel myself putting that pressure on myself as well. It's like, well, in 2 years, I have to be done. But because of COVID and because of how it's affected schools and with everything moving to being online, now I'm just kind of like, I don't have to be in a hurry. I can actually take my time. I mean, I don't really want to be in school for that long because I am pursuing an MFA, which is a 2-year program. I kind of feel like if I don't just like go straight through, I'm probably going to be like, you know what? I am good and I don't really want to finish. So I'm for whatever reason, I just had this pressure on myself. Like I have to do this or I have to finish or it has to be this way. Like I have to have this GPA by the time I graduate, which I did do at USC because I said by the time I graduate USC, I'm going to have a 3.0. And it just so happened that I got my 3.0. And even now it's a pressure to just get it done and to just be over done with. But because of this pandemic, things have slowed down till my school is probably, they're, as of right now, they're going to be online for the summer as well. They're looking to hopefully be on campus for the fall. So we'll see how that goes as, I guess, the fall approaches. But I mean, yeah, I'm at this point where it's just like, it's okay to just kind of take my time with certain things and to really get the most out of it that I can. So with summer school starting, I think next month, like around the end of next month, I'm kind of looking forward to it. But also I've really been enjoying this break this quarter of not having to do schoolwork.
Amen.
And not having to work. It's like God just knew because I swear every other day I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna quit. And God just knew like, you need a break. I got you. This is your break. Use it wisely and take advantage of it. So yeah, so I don't know, but for some reason I just had this unnecessary pressure on myself to just, I have to finish and I have to, do this and do that. And so I think just trying to think myself out of feeling that way and just not letting it stress me out has been a wonder in itself, which I'm grateful for. And I think having this break from school has really helped a lot as well. So.
Yeah, there definitely was a lot of pressure. I remember, especially since I was so used to like getting straight A's in high school. And I was like, I was determined to get like an A in like all of my classes in college. And that did not happen. And you know what? I'm fine with it. I graduated in 4 years. I graduated with a good GPA. And I feel like when you just take the pressure off of yourself and you stop overthinking and you just do what's best for your mind and your body, that just makes life so much easier. And the hardest thing really just becomes, just working up the nerve to make that decision, and once again, that's a part of growing up. It's doing the things that you have to do, but it's just mentally or emotionally, it's hard to do, but you just got to work up the nerve to do it.
Last fall, when I got my final grades, I literally looked at them and I just like broke down and cried. And I just thought like, what is the point of all of this? Because it's like you do all this work, you make like all these sacrifices. It's so stressful. It's like so much pressure. And I mean, like, I don't know how it is for like the undergrad students here, but like for the grad students in my program, like it's a lot that you're trying to do. And my school is on a quarter thing instead of semester. So we literally only have 10 weeks of classes. And you're basically compiling what you would learn over the course of how long is a semester? Like 3 or 4 months, something like that?
It's about, 4 months because it's August to December. So, yeah.
So you're going from 4 months to just basically, I think the fall quarter starts September and we're done by the beginning of November. So, and the summer is from like June to August. So it's literally only like almost like 2 months. So half of the time you would normally have in a semester to do work is all compiled in 10 weeks. And not only do you have like classes, you have projects that you have to do. And it was just a lot. And I'm just like, I did all of this, all of this stressful, my hair turning gray. I've got headaches and just like, just tired, all for 3 letters. And I'm like, at the end of the day, does this all really even matter? And
I mean,
it was to me, it was a really depressing thought. And I was just like, I just cried. I was depressed for like a couple of days after I had my grades. And people were just like, well, did you fail? I was like, no, I passed. But it's just like, in the end, I guess that goes into the next part of the podcast, where we reflect on everything and the question of, was college worth it? It's like, at the end of the day, is all of this really worth it? Because you know, like, even though you're going to school, you're getting a degree, and you meet a lot of people, you make connections, you hopefully learn some things, but there's no guarantees to any of it, even though you have that piece of paper saying that you completed BA, BS, MA, MFA, whatever. You completed the requirements of this degree, but in the day afterwards, what does that piece of paper really mean?
wow, that was really deep. I mean, overall, well, Candy, how do you view yourself as a college graduate?
I mean, I just see it as just another title. I don't see it being anything really special or anything really important. I think it's just something that simply shows that, like, yeah, I chose to take the time to learn whatever requirements in this field of study to get this piece of paper. So, yeah. I don't remember what your question was. Oh, what is having? So yeah, having a degree, it really doesn't mean anything to me. It's really more so for me what I learned in the process of getting that degree. Because at the end of the day, that degree is simply a piece of paper where people can acknowledge it, people cannot acknowledge it. But what they can't take is what I experienced and what I learned and how I choose to use what I learned in the process of getting it.
As far as how I see myself as a college graduate, I mean, I'm hella proud of myself, probably because I'm first generation. Yeah, like, so it was really a really big thing in my family. I mean, granted, my sisters, they went to a technical school, but I was the first person to go to a 4-year university. And, I'm honestly, I'm hella proud. Not necessarily saying, oh, I'm a proud public health major. No, I'm glad I went to college. I'm glad I, was in like the statistics of people who dropped out. I'm proud that I was able to not only do my classes, but also to make connections and to also really, improve my work versus school. My school versus life balance. And, like, I'm not saying like me going to college makes me any better than somebody who didn't, but I'm just talking about in my own personal growth. I feel like just like there's certain things that living life and going to trade school can teach you, there are only certain things that going to college can teach you. And I'm thankful for that. Even for the aspects of college that I struggled through, I'm glad I went through it because I feel like I went through it in a very like confined environment. So things didn't get as bad as they could have been, if that makes sense. And as far as how does a degree affect how I see myself, I mean, I like my degree because I feel like public health, that actually made me a lot more aware of just how messed up our healthcare system is. And even though I didn't really have that much of a passion for it when I started as a major, because I originally just wanted to go into healthcare administration, like I actually am glad that I learned more about how like minority populations are like disproportionately affected by, for example, food deserts. And also, I learned about reproductive coercion and like sexual health. Like I learned a lot. And even like I minored in medical humanities, like that was very helpful to me as well. So I actually enjoyed my major. As far as how it affects how I see myself, I feel like I've become a lot more informed about the community that I want to influence. So yeah, I think it's influenced me for the better. I actually wanted to backtrack to what you said before. You were asking was, do you think college is worth it in terms of money, time, energy, blah, blah, blah? Okay, this is what I personally think.
What you think, girl?
I think that if you are disciplined and you are structured and you know the career path that you want to take, and you were willing to even adjust your career path if necessary, because, like I mentioned before, I had to change my major and stuff, then I think going to college is worth it. Because there are certain things like an engineer, nursing, you got to go to school for.
Right.
However, I honestly think you should just do what's the most cost efficient, to be honest, because the average person is going to, like, I read a statistic that was all like 1 in 5 people are going to die with student loan debt. And y'all, that's no joke. And I just honestly, like you said before, I don't think a piece of paper is worth getting 6 figures in debt over when you're not even number one guaranteed to make that money back. And then you got some people that didn't even go to college, like all they did was go to trade school, and they're making really good money and they're not in any debt or no debt. It makes no sense. You got people that spend the rest of their days just paying off college. That is absolutely ridiculous. So I think, like, if your career does require some type of schooling, I think you need to take the most cost-effective option. In terms of time and energy, I mean, honestly, you're going to have to put the work in, whether you go through college, which is a little bit more structured, or whether you go to a trade school, or whether you want to like just work straight out of college and work your way up. Like, you're going to have to put in the time and energy. It just depends on like how you want to utilize it. I mean, I will say that, going to college doesn't guarantee that, you're going to get the job unless you are working in an essential career like nursing or engineering. But like I said before, I think that's why you really have to do your own personal research and really look at the graduation success rate of like finding a job, maybe even talking to people who have graduated from that school and see where they're working. I know, like, when you go on LinkedIn, you can see like where the alumni of your school are working.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do think that you should really think long and hard before you go to college, because I don't 100% think it's necessary. However, I do know a lot of parents push their kids to go to college because, like, it's just like, they don't want their kids just sitting around and doing nothing. And because, they want their kids to make more money with a college degree as opposed to with a high school degree, which makes sense. But we all know how the job market is right now. It's really anybody guess who gets hired and who doesn't. And honestly, sometimes it's about who you know instead of what you know.
What would you say was like the overall takeaway from your experience in college?
Oh yeah, the overall takeaway I got from my experience, that nothing in life is ever guaranteed, that even if you do make a plan, your plan could derail, and that you're going to have to change, or, you're going to crash and burn, because you're it's like you either go right or you go left. You can't just stall. Also, that while sometimes it can be difficult, change is necessary. And also, I do feel that, being confident and taking risks, they'll be really worthwhile in the end. What would you say your overall takeaway is?
My overall takeaway is to be on top of your stuff. And I say that from the standpoint of, people tend to try to depend on their advisors to tell them like what classes they should take, stuff like that. I learned from personal experience to not depend on your advisor to tell you to do anything, because they may not advise you properly. And then the next thing you know, you will be in school an extra year taking classes that you could have taken, a year before and could have been done. So I would say definitely like take accountability to take like your experience into your own hands. Like every time I met with my advisors, I just told them what I was taking, and I was just like, well, these are the classes I want to take. Just let me know if it works in my degree curriculum or whatever. And I said, the biggest takeaway is to just take your experience in your career into your own hands and not leaving it up to other people, and to just, like you said, kind of like be adaptable and open to figure things out, because it's not going to always go how you may plan or how you may want. And that's okay. Whatever could be better for you in the end anyway. So, and just do what you want. Not like go crazy and like, that kind of do what you want. But I mean, as far as like your field of study, like do what makes you happy and not what other people may want you to do. Because if you're miserable in whatever you're studying, you're not going to do good. And you're just going to like really just be resentful for studying something that you really don't care about.
No, exactly like that. Ooh, Lord. Can I get an amen on that?
Biology.
Like, I swear, there were so many nights that, I was just crying over my laptop.
Aww.
But yeah, I'm exaggerating, but like that's, I want it to, but you know what, how sometimes you just want to cry, but it's like, what's the point? I'll just suffer. That definitely like was me.
I'm a crybaby, so I just cry. Because it's easier for me to let my emotions out than to just hold them in. So if I feel like I'm gonna cry, I just cry.
Meanwhile, I bottle them in. That's how I ended up in therapy to begin with. But definitely no. But you said the truth. Like, you really just got to be adaptable to change, and you really just you have to do what's best for you, not do what other people think is best for you. Because the only person who knows you like yourself is you. So
hopefully. I mean, some people don't know themselves. I mean, like, I'm not even trying to be funny. Like, some people don't know themselves. They're still in the process of figuring out. And sometimes, I mean, they may not, quote unquote, know themselves until sometime after they graduate. I don't think a lot of people are fortunate to have that mindset that they like, yeah, like I actually know, like, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. And regardless of whatever, I want to do what makes me happy in the end, and not what is expected of me or what other people say that I should do. I want to do what I want to do because it's simply what I want to do for me and not for you.
This actually ties into our next question, which is, what advice would you give to your freshman self, Candy?
I don't know. I guess just go with your instincts. And like, even if you think of something or you want to do something that you feel like is just kind of out there or nobody else is doing it, so why should I? Or don't feel like you have to limit yourself based on what's already out there, when you could be like the next person to do something different. Not saying that like there's anything new under the sun, so to speak, but there's new ways of doing the same thing. So if you have an idea, if you have something that you want to put out into the world, or if you have something that you just want to do, just do it. And not having an example be the reason you don't. Just be that example and just go from there.
That is very true. Yeah, sometimes you really do got to be the example, because shoot, even the examples we got out there, they may not be you, or might not be what you want to do. Like they said, you got to be your own inspiration. As far as like the advice I'd give to my freshman self, I would tell her, stop being so damn stubborn. I would say, don't be afraid to expand your social group, whether it be friendship or networking.
Or be a Buddha.
But yeah, definitely get you a rotation on. Just kidding. But I would tell her, come out of your comfort zone when you're ready. Don't feel like you have to do, because let's be honest, peer pressure, it exists in grown people too. It's not just a teenager thing. So I would definitely tell her, come out of your comfort zone when you're ready. I would let her know that you are not a second fiddle to anybody. Like, your feelings matter. Your experiences are valid. I would definitely really reassure her that she's just as great of a person as she thinks she is, and she needs to act on it.
Oh, yeah, you are pretty great.
Oh, you're making me blush. But yeah, I definitely would just give her like a pep talk, and like definitely would say, don't get so like discouraged, and like, if like things don't go well, dust yourself off and try again.
There's one quote that I've always remembered from high school, from my high school English class. I don't remember who it's by, but it says, to change and to improve are two different things. And so I think being able to distinguish between what you should change and what you should improve is definitely something that I would tell my freshman self And I think just knowing what things about myself that I didn't need to change for other people, or that
Yeah.
I didn't need to change for myself in trying to be something to other people, but just to be able to know what I needed to change and what I needed to improve on, and just doing it for me and not for others.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, and I feel like it can definitely be like a little bit, that can be quite the transition when you go into college, because you're coming from a high school, you're coming from high school where it's like you're almost kind of pressured to conform, whereas like you go to college and now it's like now your job is not to fit in, but it's to like really find yourself and like find what you do like, find what you don't like, find, you find out what you'll tolerate, you'll find out who you actually like being around, you'll find out who you don't like being around. You do experience a lot of change and growth and improvements on yourself. That'll definitely happen. And another thing too is that going to college really taught me that growing up is a constant evolving process. Like, I definitely feel like when I was in college, I was going through a very transitionary process. And even now, like, I'm in another stage of like where like I'm experiencing growth in another transitionary process. And the feelings that I am experiencing now are very similar to then. There's anxiety, there's overthinking, there's depression, but then there's also this, I want to say ecstasy, but that's not it. There's this sense of like relief when you just like let your mind like rest, and you just kind of like, like let life take its course. And then you take your time to like plan your day and to just, tackle things day by day, because sometimes it's not all about like winning the battle, it's about winning the war. And that being said, there are some battles that you will lose with yourself. And that doesn't necessarily mean you got to beat yourself up over it. It just means that, plan A didn't go so well. Now it's time to do plan B. I guess now that kind of leads into, what personal regrets do you have and how did you learn from them?
I don't live with regrets. So I believe everything is a lesson. It's just a matter of how you apply it to your life, and what you learn from it is what makes the difference with it. So negative, positive stuff I may not like, I don't tend to think of it or look at it as a regret. I just look at it as a lesson. And if it's a lesson, then I could take what I need from it and grow and just be better.
That is an excellent way to think about life in general. Nothing but positive energy.
Well, I'm not saying it's all positive energy. It's just I'd like to think of myself as a realistic optimist. So whereas yes, I am optimistic about things, I'm also realistic about it. And as the realist, I won't say like everything is positive, because everything can't be positive. Some things are going to be negative, but it's all about how you choose to look at it and what you choose to take from it. So like if you just harbor on the negative and then, wish that you could have done this or wish you could have done that or have regrets, I mean, to me, that's just unnecessary energy that you have for no reason, because you can't go back and do anything about it. And I'm also big on not worrying about things I can't change. So it's also why I don't really think of things as regrets, because I can't go back and change it. I can't go back and undo it. So instead of thinking of it as a regret, I just think of it as a lesson. It's like, okay, so what can I learn from this? Or what can I take away from this? Or how can I use this to improve in some way, or even to change if I have to? But to just look at it as a lesson learned and just move on from it.
As far as me, I mean, I feel like I might have slight OCD, and I'm not just saying that just to say it. Like, I definitely do think I have like really bad obsessive compulsive tendencies, because it's like, I won't say all I do is like think about my regrets, but there are definitely some things that I wish I would have known, or I just wish I would have done better. But I mean, like you said, there ain't nothing you can do about it. except learn from your mistakes and your misfortunes, which I definitely have. I definitely think that one of the best things you can do is just learn from either your own mistakes or somebody else's mistakes so that, you know, you don't find yourself in the same bull crap over and over again. So, you know, I just wanted to take this time to not only address like, you know, things that I wish I would have just known or like done better, but also to like give advice to other people. So one thing that I wish that one regret that I did have was like just like not really adhering to my limits. And the problem that I had was that, and maybe even to a certain extent now, I think I've gotten better with calling out the problem and so that I don't repeat it. But I make myself suffer through things that I do not have to suffer through, whether it be a class or being a bio major or being in a certain social space. I made myself be in places that I did not need to be in. And it's because, like, in my mind, I was just like, okay, so I just need to go through this. I just need to suffer through this a little bit longer because in the end, I'll be rewarded and it'll be worth it. But what I had to learn the hard way that even if you are rewarded, the pain you experience is not worth it. And that, in fact, if you are suffering through your process of whatever it is you're doing, then chances are you're either doing something wrong or that situation is just not meant for you. So, and that kind of led to me, changing like majors, career paths and whatnot, and just making changes throughout my college experience in general. So, once again, I guess this one really isn't really a regret. I guess I just really wish I would have just listened to my intuition better. Another one definitely is just managing finances better. Although I blame the educational system on this one because they do not teach us about investing and like saving and stuff. But college really isn't a better time to really build credit, to save money, to invest. I don't know if you guys are really paying attention about what's going on in the market right now, but a lot of people are taking advantage of like the investment opportunities. But how can you know about that if you don't know about finance? So I guess one thing that I really wish I would have just studied more finance and taught myself more about like savings bonds and whatnot. And when I was in college, just because like that was when I was definitely getting like a steady flow of income, whether it was from either a refund check or from work. So, and also definitely like I think I did like manage to budget fairly well when it came to groceries and paying bills. But, I think saving and investing, that's definitely like a really good tool to use. That's only going to help you through college and as an adult. And then I guess the last thing really is, I wouldn't really necessarily call this like really a regret, but like definitely taking advantage of more networking and research opportunities. I definitely wish, I'm glad that, I joined APO when I did, but I really wish I would have gotten more involved with clubs and joining more clubs during my freshman and sophomore year, just so I could be in them longer and experience like more networking and just meeting new people and really getting the most out of my college experience.
Is there anything else you would like to add for this episode or for this week's episode? I don't know what I was about to say.
For this week's episode, like I said, did we talk about, I see one that says HBCU versus predominantly white university.
Yeah, but you didn't go to HBCU.
Oh yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I couldn't really contribute to that. But yeah, no.
But it is. I will. Well, okay. It would be a one-sided conversation, but I will say for me personally, if I could tell my freshman self one thing, because technically when I was a freshman, I was at a HBCU, I would say definitely enjoy it a lot more than what I did. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it a lot, but I could have also enjoyed it more.
I I agree with myself. I definitely could have, enjoyed my college experience a lot more. Not saying, I mean, granted, I would definitely go and do it over again, but like, I don't know. There's a reason why I did the things the way I did.
That's very true. I mean, and a lot of it because a lot of it came from just simply being an inexperienced 18-year-old out on your own for the first time, and you don't really know no better. So you're just gonna kind of like do whatever, maybe your friends want to do, or just kind of follow the group a little bit until you kind of figure out, which probably would take place around, well, for me, it was like my junior year, also because I got into a relationship. So a lot of stuff I did my sophomore and freshman year, I wasn't doing that by the time I was a junior. I was basically like booed up, and I was just like, oh, I'm good. I don't need to go out. I'm good.
Man, you got lame.
But also, no, actually, but before that, like, I realized, what was the point of going out? Because this is my logic. You sit there for hours, take a shower, you get all dressed up, you smelling good, you looking good, just to go to a club where you're going to sweat. You're going to get sweated on, people smoking, so you're going to be smelling like smoke afterwards, and your feet going to be hurting, you're going to be tired. So it was like, what's the point of doing all this just for all that? And I was just like, I just wasn't feeling it anymore. So yeah, by the time my junior year came around, I didn't really go out anymore. It was just whatever.
Meanwhile, I feel like I was the exact opposite. I really didn't do too much. Like, I started going out my sophomore year, but I felt like went out the most my junior and senior year. And honestly, man, I enjoyed going out, with the girls. Like, I put on my playlist. I took my nice turn-up shower. I was like putting on my makeup, laying my wigs, we were getting the pictures, and then, we would go out to 5 Points, and yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, but it was fun.
So, but I mean, like, it was fun when it was fun, but then it just wasn't fun anymore.
I mean, as far as going to an HBCU, I don't know. This is terrible, but I didn't even like really consider going to one, because I don't know, like, to me, I was just more so focused on going to a school that had the good program for what I wanted to go for. I really wasn't even like, I didn't even really consider going to an HBCU. In fact, to be honest with you, like, man, this is a whole different conversation for a different podcast, but going to college, it really introduced me to like a lot of like Black people issues as it pertains to like the PWI versus a HBCU. I learned about colorism in college. Like, that was a lot. And like you said before, like, I think being around Black people, like, really, like, for me, before going to college, I went to the first 2 years, I went to a predominantly ghetto school. And then this last 2 years, I went to a school that was like predominantly like white. So like going to USC, it didn't really make that much of a difference to me. However, I mean, there were racist incidents on the campus, and I mean, there is like the microaggressions that you're undoubtedly gonna face when you are in like an interracial group of friends, or like with classmates, which I definitely I can relate.
For me, I noticed like you had more diversity of teachers at HBCU. It's not just white teachers or Black teachers. Like, you had a mix of teachers, whereas like at USC, most of the teachers are white. So being a Black student with a white instructor, even now, to be quite honest, I still feel this way. It feels like they kind of want you to like your work to kind of reflect maybe like their opinions and their ideas, and a lot of, which could be limited, versus just having like that space to just really be, who you are, and let your work reflect that. And I mean, honestly, even at USC, with one of the teachers I had, I almost gave up on like creative art at all, because of how it just felt like what I was creating wasn't perceived by them as being quote unquote art. So it was kind of like downplayed or like looked down on. And, that can kind of get depressing. And if it wasn't for my high school art teacher, who happened to be Black, like actually talking to me about it and like giving me advice, like I wouldn't even be where I'm at right now when it comes to just being an artist.
Yeah, I definitely can understand how that could be stressful from like an artistic mindset, and definitely like from a creative standpoint. As far as USC, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that our staff was that diverse unless you were taking some type of like chemistry or whatever. Then you definitely had some type of foreign teacher.
Statistics, which I to this day I don't understand why statistics was in our curriculum as advertising majors. I would have preferred to freaking take calculus because I can do words and I can do numbers. I can't do them together.
Well, they probably gave you stat because that's the easiest math. Well, besides like
that's not math. That's a word problem with a freaking equation mix in it. That is not math.
Statistics is not that bad, Candy.
Statistics sucks. Give me calculus. I'd rather take calculus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't care. Give me calculus. Don't give me statistics ever again in life.
Well, shoot. All I know is that taking calculus at USC was probably one of like the worst decisions. But you live, you learn.
But also, now that I think about it, I don't even know why I had to take that because I had taken calculus at my previous school. So why do I need stat? But whatever. I already got the degree. It's over and done with. So let's wrap this up so I can go eat and go get my baby because we already been here by 2 hours.
Oh, my son. Okay. So I'm going to, let me do the outro. Okay. Well, that wraps up this episode. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and follow us on Twitter at the Bi Identity Pod, 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 the